With that, Tanya, tell us about your journey making this happen, getting this on Netflix. What did that look like? What
Sure.
were the struggles, or was it easy? I don't know.
Well, it took about 10 years before we got to Netflix. Oh, before I start though, just to clarify, Budget and Kajo were the creators of the amazing book that this is based on. They actually didn't serve as showrunners. So it's Jay who's the showrunner, and we were working together for, for the series.
Okay.
And part of the journey, I'll tell you, because like for creators, sometimes it's really hard for them to, and understandably so, because it's something they built from the ground up, to just hand it over for an adaptation. But Kaja and Budget were pretty fearless about that. So the journey starts actually in around 2009. And from LA, I used to live in LA and, work there. And I would go home periodically, mostly around Christmas time, which is basically the best time to come back to Manila, even though there's a lot of traffic, but it's the best time. And I was looking for material, because you're never off the clock. You're always looking for material. And somebody recommended I read this graphic novel. And I read several, but the one I really sparked to was Trese. And at the time, there were only about 3 books, like 3 volumes of it. And when I read it, I said, okay, if there's anything that I could translate from the page to the screen, it's this story. And so I asked mutual friends to put me in touch with Budget. I kind of cold called him, and he was kind enough to, say yes to meeting up with a random chick who says, hey, I really like your book and your story, and I'm a producer, and I want to turn it into, whether it was a feature or a series. And at that time, it was live action. So 10 years, me and my producing partner, Shanti Harmain, who's from Indonesia, we had started working together, and we basically pitched it to a lot of different platforms, studios, both internationally, and of course there were some local ones in the Philippines that wanted to meet with us. And for one reason or another, it didn't quite work out up until we landed at Netflix Anime. And John Derdarian, who's the executive, said, Castlevania for them had done really well. And it was, the first Netflix original. It was anime outside of Japan. And I know there's like conversations about what anime is, but for the sake of this, they're calling it like anime out of Japan. And we were ready, at that time. If the timing was right, we were ready with our deck, we were ready with our pitch. We knew what what it could be going in there. And he saw it and he's like, well, what about anime? And we're like, it wasn't an option before, but now it's an option. And we said, that's great, let's do it. And actually, things happened fairly quickly after that. He brought on Jay Oliva, because Jay's body of work, as you guys know, is really, amazing and deep and very emotional. And he's also Filipino American, which Jay says in multiple interviews, it's his first gig that he got for being Filipino, which was like, it never happens. So when we met up, we realized we were on the same page pretty quickly in terms of what this could be. And that started, the ball rolling in terms of the process, and up until we released this year. So I'm trying to nutshell that, 10-year span. So if there are questions in there, feel free to bring it up, because of course there's so many details, but there's not enough time to cover that whole period.
And the comic's been out for a while too. It's been out. When was Courtney? When the
2005. So it's been out since 2005, and they started with ash cans because I don't know, maybe at some point you'll have Budget and Kajo on, because that's a great story as well. They were both. Kajo was he was a storyboard artist for an ad agency. Budget was like a creative director, like a copywriter, creative director. And they were pretty frustrated with having to get everything approved by committee. So they said, hey, we just want to do something that we get the final say on. And that's how they started Trese, and it came out in 2005.
I watched a little bit of the Netflix After Dark, and I saw that a little bit of that, which that was a really cool thing to see. Because that's not something that normally that I have seen Netflix do before, like in terms of like, anime, especially talking to the content creators, which shows the power of this property and the desire people have that, we want to know more.